Before we get into this edition of Titans Today, I want to hear from you in the comments section. Who is your all-time favorite Titans player? Truly no wrong answers, so sound off in the comments section. A couple different ideas suggested by Titans Wire, the USA Today subsidiary or whatever the proper term is there, and I wanted to spend some time on because I think it's pretty interesting. First up is the idea of signing Justin Simmons. Not the first time, probably not the last time, unless someone else signs him. We discussed this on the show. As a reminder, Diana Russini had reported at the beginning of free agency, all the way back in March, the Titans had interest in Justin Simmons. They wanted a shot at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Eagles land him. Simmons, all these months later, still unsigned, which is frankly a little weird to me. He is an older player. I think you could argue that he's not the same guy he was at his absolute best, in his peak, in his prime. But he's still a good football player. I'd say he's still a very good football player and a starting caliber safety, even though the safety market in general isn't as strong as it normally is. I think Simmons would be an instant impact upgrade player for the Titans, specifically giving you massive insurance if a starter goes down and you go from terrible depth to, I would argue, really good depth there. I have no idea why Simmons is unsigned. We're almost about a month away, give or take, depending on what team you cheer for, what Titans. You're called a month away, right? From a training camp. We'll round and include all teams that way. Whether it's Tennessee or someone else. For Simmons, you're kind of getting tight on time to sign and get up to speed and make your impact and not be playing catch-up at the end of July. Tennessee, I think, does need another safety. I believe in Amani Hooker. I believe in Elijah Molden. I don't have faith in the depth. Jackson, Carter, Brown, Ellis. If those guys had to start, we'd be talking about, it's a big concern you got in the back end there. You add Justin Simmons, you allow Elijah Molden or Hooker, probably Elijah Molden, frankly, to kind of do some chess piece DB stuff, can still play in the nickel, can be maybe you're just your sixth defensive back when you go to dime packages, can do safety and can do nickel corner looks. I'm all for adding Justin Simmons. Maybe he's asking for too much money. And if that's the case, maybe that price point drops closer to the start of training camp. But I would absolutely add him if the money and playing time stuff all sorts itself out. So what do you think? You kind of pretty much heard my answer there. Would you sign Justin Simmons? Y for yes, N for no at the pinned comment of today's video. The ad comes on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's talk DeAndre Hopkins extension here. USA Today also pitching that idea so he doesn't become a free agent after this season. And it does make some sense. Hopkins is a very good football player. Long-term on your roster beyond this upcoming year, who do you trust as a piece at wide receiver? Obviously, Calvin Ridley is one of them. You paid him big money. Tyler Boyd's on a one-year deal. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is a backup caliber player. Traylon Burks and Kyle Phillips are young guys, but they haven't really proven themselves to be reliable pieces. There's a scenario, if you don't sign Hopkins now, you enter next offseason with, once again, wide receiver as one of your biggest needs because Ridley played great. He's under contract. Cool. None of your other impact receivers, Hopkins, Boyd, etc., are under contract unless one of, Burks or even Phillips emerges this season. Here was the argument from USA Today, the idea from USA Today. Tennessee should consider signing Hopkins to a 2-year extension with an out in 2026 just in case his play on the field declines. By no means a bad idea. I also think that might be a little bit easier said than done because all you're really doing is adding an additional year of guarantees, right? This year is already locked in pretty much. You add some next year, and then we'll see about the year after that. And that's kind of the main issue right now the Browns are facing in a similar scenario with Amari Cooper. He's going to get $20+ million a year. Hopkins probably going to ask for that if we're being honest. But if you're only guaranteeing one more year, then next offseason you're right back in the exact same space, which an older veteran maybe doesn't want to be in. So do you want to extend DeAndre Hopkins now? More on this to come. S for signed or P for pass. I think the comparison contract here is Mike Evans. Now, Evans has been more consistently productive in recent years, so I don't think necessarily Hopkins is going to demand or get to this figure. But Evans got 2 years, $41 million. 29 of that was guaranteed, so There is kind of an out after the first season. The average per year, though, is still 20.5. You're not saving a ton of money, and it's kind of backloaded with a void year to be ultra aggressive. I would not anticipate anyone offering Hopkins this offseason or next top 10 wide receiver money. But I do think he can kind of scrape and claw his way in to the top 5 veteran wide receiver money. A.J. Brown's kind of his own little outlier there. Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, sure. Then there's a big drop-off. The weird Stephon Diggs contract, which is at number 15, which is kind of like its own little, special deal because they traded for him, whatever. Calvin Ridley's out there, but he's kind of still his first deal with the way that he got suspended and everything there. Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, all making $20 to $20.5 million. That's probably around the range that Hopkins is looking for because he did go back to being a 1,000-yard receiver last season. He had missed time in 2022 and 2021. He's probably not going to be the 14 or the 1.4K guy anymore. He can still be a good football player for you. And if you can work out a 2-year extension that guarantees, 1.5 years of the deal, maybe that's intriguing for all sides involved. It's also a new regime. And both sides could go, let's wait and see how this plays out, especially if Tennessee maybe has their eyes on like a T. Higgins next offseason, who's younger and wouldn't be that much more expensive. Inching closer to 10,000 subscribers here on Titans Today. Help us get there. Still keep giving you guys videos. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/Titans Today, all for free. Finally, Titans Wire, USA Today, the same thing. Also wants Tennessee to sign Emmanuel Ogbah, the pass rusher most recently with the Miami Dolphins. We'll spend some more time on this, some of the pros and cons involved here. But pick a free agent to sign. If you only sign one of them. I think I know how you vote, but I want to hear it anyway. JS for Justin Simmons, EO for Emmanuel Ogbah. The main argument for signing Ogbah was to replace Denico Autry, saying Ogbah isn't Autry, but he's a solid pass rusher who can also kick inside if needed. The former Miami Dolphin tallied 5.5 sacks in a part-time role last season and has totaled 9 sacks twice in his career. Those 2 years, whether they came in 2020 and 2021, Ogbah's now kind of in the journeyman, veteran, mercenary stage of his career. He's been with the Browns and Chiefs and Dolphins, and he can kind of play inside. It wasn't, I think, a less impactful of like, Denico Autry, who could kind of do that 3 to 9 technique role. Ogbah, I think, is a little bit better doing the 5 to 9 technique role, but that's fine. You can, in certain packages, you can make that happen. I am predominantly looking at him as an edge rusher. And that's where I do think you could have some interest there. Harold Landry, Arden Key, cool. Locked-in starters there. Does one of your young guys emerge, namely Caleb Murphy, Jalen Harold, the late-round pick this year, or Rashad Weaver? You need one of those guys to emerge. Ordering is whatever you want the ordering to be. If you get to training camp, week 1, week 2, maybe even into week 2.5, week 3, and the young guys aren't impressing, that's where it starts to make sense to go revisit that market and say, hey, can we add a veteran who can help us out? Maybe Ogbah could end up being that guy, although I'd still rather sign Justin Simmons and at least give those young guys a chance, Harold, Murphy, Weaver, to emerge before I go get the vet in Ogbah.